All right, let's take you now to a live look at Capitol Hill, where the United States Senate is teeing up a vote on the War Powers Resolution. That is happening later today. If passed in the Senate and the House, it could require President Trump to seek congressional approval for any continued military action against Iran.
If he signs it.
And there's no sign that it will pass the Senate. The vote comes a day after Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed Congress on Operation Epic Fury. So yesterday, our Caitlin Huey Burns pressed the secretary about the justification for the strikes. Listen to this exchange.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked you a question.
No, were you the one that? Because somebody asked me a question yesterday. Did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that follow-up, and I said no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks.
So let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey Burns. Caitlin, what is remarkable about that interaction that you had with the Secretary of State is, in essence, you were able to show on video how typically the administration deals with the press, right? Which is that when you ask them about something that they said on the record, the initial reaction, the first reaction is to decry fake news, say that's not what I said, that's not what happened. But in this rare moment, you happen to be the reporter who asked Secretary Rubio the question, who then elicited a response that you were just quoting back to him. I thought that was incredibly remarkable.
Hey, Vlad. Yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind on Capitol Hill today and yesterday and the day before with all of these briefings. And we keep receipts, we keep transcripts of all of the things that we ask and how exactly they are answered. And I do want to unpack a little bit of that, if I may, because Rubio was asked two different things in that briefing, in that press conference that he gave to us on Monday. The first question I asked him on Monday was, what exactly was the imminent threat? And I want to read to you what he said. He said, there's absolutely an imminent threat. It was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. He went on to say, the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first, after they were attacked by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. So he brought up Israel in that exchange. Later, in a subsequent follow-up, a colleague from ABC asked specifically about Israel. And the Secretary of State said in that exchange that we were going to go ahead anyway. So I just wanted to parse through the language there and say that we were not wrong, and we were not putting any words in anyone's mouth. What happened the following day is that the president came out and said that America, the U.S., was always going to strike first. So what we are trying to do is get an accounting for the American people about the rationale for this war and what immediately led up to it. The Secretary of State told us that Iran had been developing nuclear weapons, had been trying to attain them even after the U.S. Obliterated, in Trump's words, their weapons program, and that they had a growing ballistic missile program. So we're just trying to assess what the rationale is for this war, given that 6 service members have been killed. And I do want to underscore that General Kane started his remarks paying tribute to those service members who were stationed in Kuwait. And I really think, we should be focused on that as we are asking questions about the scope of this war and what is going to happen next, how long we're going to be engaged.
You're looking at pictures of 4 of the 6, and I think to myself, the youngest was 20 years old. Think about where you were in your life at 20 years old and all the life that you've lived since then. Yeah,
and another point that I'll make here is that these were reservists, and reservists are typically in subsequent years after the Gulf War have been asked to step up in ways that back when I was a young cadet, you were not expected to do. And now we see in this particular case that these reservists lost their life.
And Vlad, they're stationed in Kuwait. My brother was a reservist. He did two separate tours in Kuwait. It is typically a place that you think you go, a safe place. So these families, I'm just really thinking about these families at this time.
You certainly are. Caitlin Huey Burns, thank you so much.
Keep bringing those receipts, Caitlin.